Appreciate him taking the time. So, Congressman Benishek, is that you?
Yep.
All
How
right.
you doing, Dan?
I'm doing wonderful. In fact, you know what? I don't know if this has got to be coincidence. The minute you picked up the phone, it stopped raining outside. It's now turning into a beautiful day. It must just be because you're on the phone.
I don't know, man. It's raining here in the stoop.
So, well, I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know there's a lot to talk about. And, I know there's a campaign going on, but for the most part, I know from past history, you generally prefer to talk about what you're actually doing and the work that's there. So I'm going to let you kind of start, and we'll let you guide this conversation wherever you want to go. So what's happening in Washington right now?
Well, the Congress is out. I've been working here in Michigan. Of course, everybody in around the country is talking about this Ebola crisis and the situation in Syria and Iraq. So, those are the things that are hitting the news. Myself, I've been going around the district talking to people on the ground, hearing what they have to say. And actually, I was just in Marquette the other day talking to some farmers out at Bergdahl's there in Scandia. We had some farmers come out, and as you know, agriculture is a pretty big industry in Michigan, $7 billion of economic impact. And I was talking to those guys about, regulations out of Washington, how it's hurting them, the farm bill, and the work we've been doing trying to improve things for farmers in northern Michigan. So,
and I think
that's what we're doing.
I think a lot of people are surprised what a big net agriculture covers. Like, I wouldn't have thought. I mean, things like the timber industry and a lot of things that when we think agriculture, I tend to think farms. But it actually covers quite a bit, and I know that you've been very involved in trying to help local companies access, and be able to grow agriculturally. So I know.
Well, in the UP, we've got some ag. We also have a lot of lumber industry, the timber industry. You know what I mean? Because the Department of Agriculture oversees the Forest Service. The forest is a big part of the Upper Peninsula economy as well. We want to be sure that they're harvesting properly in the federal forest so that the mills can continue to provide jobs for people in northern Michigan. It all comes down to jobs and, overseeing that forest service so that they properly harvest our trees so the forest stays healthy. So we got diversity in our wildlife and so that our mills can keep running. Is important issues that we're trying to stay on top of them, and by being on that committee, I think they can contribute to that.
Yes, you mentioned briefly the stuff that's going on in the Middle East, Syria, and our kind of growing involvement militarily over there, and when you first started running, you believed, and I think you've been consistent with this, that we really shouldn't be putting our troops in harm's way without a vote of the Congress. And although the president, most people agree, does have authority to do that, they should be going to the Congress. But we seem to be dragging our feet, and it seems people on both sides are dragging their feet. Can you shed any light on that?
Well, frankly, the president hasn't come to us with a plan. I don't want to put the men and women that are in our military in harm's way without knowing the plan. My daughter served in the military for 5 years. She went to Iraq. She went to Afghanistan. And, I understand the concern that a family has when their loved ones are in the military and they don't know the plan. And, frankly, the president hasn't come to us with a plan. So, I'm not going to be voting to put our men and women in harm's way. I understand what the plan is, what the long-term strategy is, what's the victory. The president was just telling us a couple months ago that the war on terrorism was over.
Yeah.
And we're pulling out. And now, he's changed his mind. It says it's going to be years. It's going to be a long slog. All that. So, my confidence in the commander-in-chief is, not as good as it could be. I'm glad maybe he finally realized that. President Bush, had some decent ideas there, but I'm not happy with President Bush, frankly, that we didn't have a declaration of war, after 9/11. So, maybe they don't declare war anymore, but I know that I believe that we shouldn't put our men and women on the ground in combat without support from Congress and really the American people, because we represent the American people. So, that's my biggest concern.
Well, I appreciate that. And I guess more, as much as anything else that you've done, I appreciate the fact that you've really been consistent over the years. Some people, they say one thing to get in, and then, of course, once you're in office, they change their views on things. And that's not to say that you don't listen to everybody, but, on the core principles, you've been consistent. So I certainly appreciate that. Are you still there?
Yeah, you cut in and out there for a second,
okay.
But I still have you.
Okay. Well, something else, one of the reasons you'd mentioned when you first ran in your first term, I was looking back at past, statements, and, one of the reasons, of course, was healthcare, but spending and debt, and I'm looking at your website right now, and, the spending and debt is still a problem, but of course that seems to get shoved, to the back of burner when we have issues like what's going on in the Middle East. I got to believe those talks are still going on. We've heard rumors of having another the continuing resolution just to keep spending. How are the negotiations going there, or is anything going to happen? Really, probably not until the new Congress comes in with a lame duck session. Maybe be able to get some spending cuts going on.
Well, Dan, that's the reason I ran for Congress in the first place, as you know. Frankly, I don't want to be spending money we don't have and putting trillions of dollars in debt on our children and grandchildren. I never was involved with politics before. President Obama got elected and, really put the debt, into a really high spiral. So I'm still very concerned about that. The problem we have, though, is the fact that the Senate continues to want to spend money we don't have. And, we in the House have passed budgets every year that I've been there. The Senate didn't pass a budget for over 4 years until we passed the no budget, no pay. Well,
They wouldn't
get their pay unless they passed a budget. And they finally did pass a budget for the first time in 4 years. Of course, it didn't balance. I can certainly understand, arguing how to spend the money. But we shouldn't spend money we don't have. We should aim to try to balance the budget. I mean, everybody that and I know lives within a balanced budget because you got to spend what you get in. Otherwise, somebody's going to come and take away all your stuff after a while if you keep spending money that you don't have. And that's what's going to happen to America unless we do that. The young people are one of my greatest concerns because it's tough for a young person to get established now. It's tough to find a good job. Number one. And number two, they're facing a high debt load getting out of school, and that's why I'm still here fighting for our young people so they have the same opportunities that we had growing up. I grew up in the UP. I didn't have much to start with, but I had the opportunity, and I worked hard, and I think that all of our young people deserve that same opportunity going forward, and I just don't see that. In the Obama economy, the stifling of jobs, over-regulation of the government, spending money we don't have, adding to the debt. Those are issues that it's tough to deal with a Senate that continues to want to spend money we don't have, and then we end up in a fight with them, and, it led to a government shutdown last year. But, that's a loser for the Republicans, frankly. We can't shut the government down, so we end up compromising with a Senate that wants to continue to spend, and that's a frustrating part to me because I want to, not spend money we don't have, and not continue to saddle our children with debt. So that's still a big problem in this country. We did cut spending for the last 2 years in a row for the first time since the Korean War, but we got a lot of work yet to do, and it's not going to happen unless we can change the Senate.
And, of course, a lot of people, I understand how tough the position can be because you've got the folks who ideologically, believe, again, like what you just said, we got to stop spending more than we've got coming in. That's common sense. But you're right. You get attacked from the one side saying, hey, they're going to push grandma off a cliff. And then, of course, you get cut from some people on the far right are saying that, well, no, we need to do it now. We can't ease ourselves out of the problem. We need to, tomorrow, stop taking and spending more than we've got. And, of course, that can create problems. So some people are frustrated that the plan is slow to get ourselves out of the debt. But at least it's a plan.
I agree with that frustration, believe me. I agree with that frustration, but the problem is Harry Reid in the Senate, who continues to want to spend money, and then we have to compromise with them in order to get something passed, because nothing happens unless the Senate and the House vote for it. And that is a very frustrating thing to me, because the government, like I said before, if the government shuts down, nobody's happy. And, the elections will, go against us if we don't work with the Senate.
Right.
So that is a very frustrating thing. That's why elections are so important. And it's important to get out to the polls. I encourage everybody to get out to the polls and vote in a fiscally responsible way.
Yes.
So,
hey, do you have time to hang on for one more segment? I do have to take a commercial break. I know your time is precious, but I'd love to keep you on if you have a few more minutes.
Well,
you actually do have to run. Okay.
Going on here, but,
all right. Well, you know what? I thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule for this. Is there, before I let you go, then I'm going to let you kind of finish up. Is there anything that let you kind of summarize? What do you want people thinking about as the last thoughts that came out of your mouth today on the show?
Well, I would say that it's important for people to get out there and vote on November 4th, because this is a critical election. We need to have a Congress that works, and I agree with that. I think in the House we've been responsible. We've passed over 381 pieces of legislation that have not been acted on by the Senate. That's not right. Those are bills that would create jobs. A lot of them are bipartisan bills in the House that are passed. We need to win the Senate. There's a lot of big important issues in the country that I think we could handle better if we had a Congress that could work together. And right now, with Harry Reid as the lead in the Senate, is just not working. I mean, Democrats would vote for some of the stuff that we had if they were allowed to take a vote, but they're not. And I appreciate people's support in Northern Michigan. I'm hoping to continue to serve them for another term, and I would appreciate their support.
Hey, and again, thank you so much for not just taking the time out today, but all the work you've done since you've been there. I mean, I think a lot of us have closely been following what you've done, and you've done a lot of good. And I want to thank you for that, and wish you luck in the coming election.
All right, thank you for having me on, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Have a wonderful weekend.